Pathable website that you've accessed to join this meeting. And there's a poll section, and we'd like to invite you to fill in the poll. It's just 3 short questions to understand our audience a bit better. You can just enter the poll right now.
Can I just see here if Fredrik needs any technical support? Anyone that was in the room with him?
Pithen, does Fredrik need technical support?
20 seconds. Enrique is good.
I haven't seen him. I can't see him. We don't see him in the participants.
Yes. Link. Yes.
Blake, should I send you a link that you could just press and then you will come here?
Yeah, it's in the chat, I think. Pithen, can you check the chat that has the direct link for Fred?
Enrique is okay. He's already in. Alice?
Yeah, can we see him? Fred, are you here?
Yeah.
You have to unmute yourself when you're speaking. Hello? Is it a technical issue or is it the connection?
There we are.
I propose we get started at the point where we would expect Fredrik to come in. I'm pretty sure we'll sort it, otherwise he can take place behind the laptop of Pithen, I hope. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the session. Our session is called Scaling Access to Water and Sanitation through Local Financial Institutions. My name is Marlies Batterink. I'm a regional program manager at Aqua for All for East Africa, and a co-convener of this session together with Water Equity. Welcome, and for the next 1 hour and 20 minutes, we'll be talking about WASH finance through local financial institutions. I've just referred our participants to a poll section at the World Water Week Pathable website. If you haven't filled in the poll yet, please go ahead. So we'll be looking and touching base at who is actually participating in our session today, and our speakers can then understand maybe a bit better what the expectations are of today and who's joining us for this session. I'll give it just a minute for people to fill in the poll, and then we'll look at the results. And we'll find Fredrik as well.
Hi, Marlies, can you see me?
Ah, wonderful. Yes, good evening. Thank you very much. Yes, it works. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So while everybody is looking at the poll section or filling it in, I'd like to take you through the program for today. We'll start with this poll, and then we'll have 5 short presentations followed by a panel discussion, and of course some time for a Q&A from the audience. Please use the chat box on the same CWE website to write your questions or comments. So there is a chat function at the website at Pathable. Please use that to put your questions, and we'll be taking them up if time allows, and otherwise we'll be making sure they will be answered at another in another way. So let's look at the poll results more. I think everybody's had time to fill in the poll, and otherwise it might be a good representation more or less of who's available. Luz, can I ask you to share your screen and look at the poll results? So to understand where our participants are from, we have a lot of participants from Europe, North America. Good morning to you. And there is Africa represented. Thank you very much. And I think Oceania is missing at the moment. So yeah, I think a fair representation of our, our global colleagues. Next poll question. So what type of organization are you representing? The majority is from the NGO foundation space. Then we have other, that's an interesting one. I'd be curious actually. Research, business, commercial financier bank. I think also a nice representation here. And then the final question from the poll, Luz. So I joined this session too, to just understand your expectations. The majority would like to learn about wash finance. That's very good news, because that's, I think, the key topic that we'll be discussing today. And let me quickly move to the first speaker there. Thanks all for filling the poll, and I wish you a very interesting session. So today we'll start with our first keynote speaker, who is Arno Keizer. Arno is Innovative Finance Manager at Aqua for All. He is responsible for blended finance and impact finance transactions with impact funds and banks as part of Aqua for All's ambition to mobilize more commercial capital to the water and sanitation space. Arno has more than 8 years experience in corporate finance, capital markets and impact finance, and he started his career at the Dutch ING Bank and at several corporate finance advisory firms before moving to impact investing. Arno, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marlies, and for that introduction. First of all, welcome everyone to the session on scaling access to finance and sanitation through local financial institution. My name is Arno Keizer. I am the Innovative Finance Manager at Aqua for All. Maybe a quick word on Aqua for All. We are a foundation established 20 years ago. We have wash experts and finance experts in the Netherlands, also in Kenya. We provide long-term expertise in supporting entrepreneurship. One of the big pillars we've been focusing on is mobilizing public and private capital with blended finance. We are focused by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and our focus is on water and sanitation economy in Africa and Asia. Today's topic is on blended finance at financial institutions, but particularly with focus on Kenya. So water and sanitation have historically been financed by the public sector and is insufficient globally and locally to achieve SDG 6. In Kenya, 12.9 billion is needed to achieve universal coverage in 2030. This is an ambitious target set by the government of Kenya. Public budget can only cover 5.6 billion, leading to a gap of 7.3 billion. So we see that local banks can play a big role to bridge that gap. For example, by developing wash loan facilities and lend to water and sanitation MSMEs. Also WSPs such as water utilities and community-based water providers. Maybe you can go to the next slide. I think that's yeah. Okay, thank you. I just covered that part. Here you can see the bridging the funding gap requirements of 12.9 billion, of which we still need a funding gap of 7.3, which represents 65.6%. On the right side, you see the role of local banks, which is to set up wash loan facilities to lend to water and sanitation MSMEs, and also WSPs such as utilities or community-based water providers. Next slide, please. So the urgent need for private investments is to cover and bridge that gap. There are several ways we see that our support can lead to crowding in of private investments and the support of banks, such as technical assistance, also the providing of first and second loss or guarantees, and impact-linked and performance-based incentives. Next slide, please. So the way Aqua for All works in Kenya is that we facilitate these instruments for various stakeholders. By de-risking and providing TA directly to FIs, they can lend to household and enterprises. This can solve, for example, collateral issues or improve risk and return profiles of enterprises. In addition, our TA support, as you can see with the red dotted line, can support utilities and enterprises leading to pipeline development. This is also a way for FIs to lend to these actors. For the rest, we maintain a strong relationship with guarantors and also with national and local government agency to enable a WASH ecosystem that is beneficial to private funders such as impact investors. If you can go to the next slide, please. So for today, we have NBK and we also have Sidian. And the example of Sidian is one that happened in 21-22. We supported in the development of the Magic Connect WASH loan facility for MSMEs and WSPs. The initial size of the facility was $8 million, with the intention to scale over 30 million in the next couple of years. We supported NBK by providing technical assistance to support in the pipeline development through covering of marketing costs, developing of learning material for the staff, and producing lending guides. We also are looking into results-based finance. This actually to make it more attractive for utilities to lend for smart water meters and reduce non-revenue waters. In addition, we supported in a negotiation with the African Guarantee Fund to arrange for portfolio guarantee. And we saw this month actually, the deal was closed with Water Equity, and there was an investment of 10 million USD in debt investment to scale up the program. This is for the bank to lend to MSMEs and WSPs and to make the risk return profiles again more attractive for not only investors, but also directly to the end clients. On to the next slide, please. The other example is with Sidian Bank. That one happened during the Corona pandemic. It started out as a COVID-19 response loan facility with a 5 million by Water Equity of 5 million. Aqua for All supported in the covering of training and marketing costs, and also a second loss in addition to the DFC guarantee. All of these pieces combined made it attractive for the bank to venture into the WASH sector and also make it part of their core strategy. So for today, we have the banks that will present more about the working together with Aqua for All, their lessons learned, and I hope that the audience can ask good questions for us to answer, and also that you'll enjoy the panel discussion. Thank you, Marlies.
Thank you, Arno, for this overview of the work that Aqua for All was doing in Kenya. I'm very happy that we can move to the next presentation, and I'm inviting Frederick Kioko from National Bank of Kenya to do the next presentation. Frederick is the Head of Change, Integration and Project Management for National Bank. They launched an ambitious finance facility last year, which was introduced by Arno, to serve both WASH SMEs and utilities, and they have a scaling ambition. Fred is a certified business solution architect and human resources professional with a career of 30 years in financial services and retail banking. Fred is passionate about impact and an advocate for people, environment, and sustainability issues within the finance space. And he is currently pursuing a master's in leadership and sustainability. I'm excited that we have NBK and both City and Bank on this session. And that we can listen to your experiences in financing WASH, you know, from the source, I would say. Over to you, Frederick.
Thank you, Marlies. I hope I'm audible.
You are. Please go ahead.
Great. Yes, so good evening or good morning or good midday to all, depending on where you're logged in from. I'll give you an overview of our water, sanitation and hygiene proposition, which we have dubbed Maji Connect. Maji is a Swahili word for water, and Connect is just the aspiration to achieve last mile connectivity with social impact along various segments of the economy, from public and private water utilities, to corporates, to SMEs, to community-based organizations, to individuals. So Maji Connect is really our flagship program, co-created with Aqua for All and designed with the water sector in mind and moving forward the water agenda across Kenya. We can move to the next slide. So I think when we as National Bank looked at the business landscape, we decided to focus on 6 themes into our business strategy. And the 6 themes really resonate with the human condition, which is around water, sustainable agriculture, health, education, energy, and sustainable living. But we actually determined that water is a common denominator for all the other aspirations. And we have an opportunity, therefore, to design a program that can impact both commercially and from the social impact perspective. In this regard, we purposed to put in place a number of objectives where we want to enhance and support water loss management in public utility companies, work with water ministry, water regulators in Kenya, water actors, water influencers to advocate for water, sanitation and hygiene programs and financial support thereof in a sustainable manner. In the first year of our program, which comes to an end actually next month, we purpose to achieve at least connectivity, new connections of up to 600,000 people, create at least 4,000 jobs, and impact at least 1,000 MSMEs and SMEs. So by also impacting the water sector and focusing on water, we know that we will impact agriculture, health, education, and again, water with energy being focal points of the same. So this was the basis of going into the water sector, deepening our footprint as National Bank, and working within the local fabric of Kenya to embed water financing, water advocacy, and championing the water agenda. Can you go to the next slide? So our approach was then to integrate various aspects to bring alive the Maji Connect National Bank program. And if we look at our approach wheel, linking up with strategic partners, expert partners, like Aquafall, like Safaricom, like Davis and Shatliff in our market, who have a reach across technical capabilities, capacity building, technical assistance, players like WASPA, the Water Association of Service Providers in Water, and other actors like the ministry. Partnerships, therefore, were a key anchor for us to accelerate our our knowledge and capability as National Bank to be able to enter the water, sanitation and hygiene arena. And then we have, of course, financing, where we focused on 2 flagship products to impact corporates and MSMEs and individuals. And then participation in advocacy and thought leadership around water management, water harvesting, water loss, water conservation, and efficiencies thereof, with harnessing of efficiencies through innovation and digital technologies. And this is where the arena of partnerships with providers of the smart metering technology, IoT service providers, who can then help us harness our revenue collections around the cash flows that secure the financing for our customers. And then critically, out of the work we are doing, we purposefully continue to measure social impact, the impact on communities, the impact on new jobs and the creation of new work, sustenance of SMEs, sustenance of women in water, sustenance of new entrepreneurs, and therefore impacting the fabric of society. And then building in a learning culture, where not only do we have a formal program for our own staff, but partnering with institutions of learning such as the Kenya Water Institute, where we champion internship and experiential learning for water colleagues, students that are taking up courses in water technologies, water engineering, water management, water quality assurance, and so forth. So these 6 aspects have been our approach to embedding ourselves as National Bank in supporting the water, sanitation, and hygiene sector in Kenya. Can move to the next slide. So really, as a bank, of course, our focal point is financing. And the features of MagiConnect financing program is the term loans for water service providers, loans for MSMEs, de-risking of financing through the Africa Guarantee Fund that we have obtained, working on price subsidies and project supervision provision, courtesy of our partner Aqua for All, and other suitors that we hope to attract, who can help us further de-risk and reduce the price and cost of credit for our customer bases, and of course, by extension, influencing the uptake of solutions for financing by the customer base in our target segment. Then, as part of the MagiConnect financing, we've also built in end-to-end smart utility management solutions with fintech partners, actors like Safaricom, Mobi Water, GoSoft, CityTaps, and others. We are working with a wide spectrum of technology partners to cater for different clientele, different markets, different relationships across the various corporate and retail segments and public sector and private utilities as well, so that, of course, we can ring fence the cash flows and bring about efficiency in collection and loan repayment during the 10 years of the facilities we provide. Again, under MagiConnect, we are focused on supporting results-based financing, through our engagement and partnership with the Water Sector Trust Fund and other similar models that we are reaching out for. Again, with the orientation of driving productivity and results in water project implementation and its related financing. Utility management for efficiencies and revenue collections is one of our specialties at National Bank. It has been part of our DNA since our formation, being very close to the national government in Kenya. Providing for those solutions is what we have been about. So if I just summarize, our aspirations are, of course, to focus on the water service providers. We have about 108 or so in the country, and MSMEs, covering the whole spectrum of the actors in water, from contractors, bottlers, abstractors, kiosk vendors, community-based organizations, and MSME value chains to complement the WSPs that cater for the majority of water services and supply across the country. So,
Fred, can I ask you to
yes.
to take your next slides in 2 minutes? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we can move to the next slide. Next slide, please.
Just a second. Apparently, I am now sharing another screen, and it should be here again.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Malis. That's a summary of our key partners, and thanks to Water Equity, who have also extended some liquidity and the million shillings, for which the $10 million actually, for which we have already received half the tranche, and immediately deploying to our pipeline and extending that credit to water suitors. We can go to the next slide. And I want to summarize by saying we are really grateful for the support provided through the partnerships we have with a number of organizations, including some on the call. And we look out for more technical assistance, financing, and sustainability development that will touch on capacity building, new technologies, R&D, pre-financing, viability assessments, further access to grants, price subsidies, flexibly priced debt, long-term de-risking schemes, and in tandem with actually extending our conversation around sustainability. We're very passionate to look at how we can drive forest cover, riparian land protection, water catchment area support and conservation as a backbone to the availability of water overall. So as National Bank, we're excited to enter soon into year 2 of our program. We are very sure that we'll deploy the Kenya shillings 5 billion that we sequestered for the water sector. We look to you who are available to partner with us, to join our journey along with our existing partners as we achieve water and sanitation for all through our efforts to gain last mile connectivity and social impact, still with commercial viability. Thank you for listening to me. Back to you, Malis.
Many thanks, Frederick, for your presentation. I already see questions coming in, so that's a good thing. So we'll move to the next speaker. We're very happy to have Citian Bank in our session as well. I'd like to introduce John Patrick Kamau to you. John Patrick is Senior Manager Partnerships and Branch Banking, focusing on MSME and partnerships at Citian Bank in Kenya. John Patrick has been in the banking space for more than 18 years. And besides his current position at Citian, he was previously working at Equity Bank and Faulu Microfinance. Citian Bank is a market champion in wash finance in Kenya. They have a network of 43 branches across 23 counties in Kenya, powered by highly robust digital offering for its customers. Their track record in wash finance is built up over almost 15 years. So it's interesting to listen to their story. And City and Bank has experience with larger investments for utilities supported through World Bank's output-based aid program. John Patrick, over to you.
Thank you, Malis, and welcome all. Greetings to all who are listening, and it's a pleasure to be in this call so that we can be able to give our presentation and our experience basically as a bank. So I think just like Malis has laid down the structure for the history for the bank. Yes, we started around 1984 just as a project, then definitely became a bank in 1999. Focusing on micro and SMEs. Then after that, definitely now with the network, we have 43 branches in 23 counties in Kenya, have a balance sheet of 43 billion. We did our first WASH project in the year 2007, but it was the first microfinance loans program in Kenya. So basically what happens is that we were focusing on the micro side a lot to see how best we can be able to serve the communities. So over to the first slide. So WASH financing, based on the experience that we have, we want to take you through how local financial institutions can participate in WASH financing. Based on the experience that we have of the period that I've just stated, we've learned a lot in this particular sector. And that's why you find in Kenya, there are not so many financial institutions that might play in this space, but at least we've been able to get it right in this particular regard. And the way we've been able to do it is being able to do through the blended financing by way of subsidies, where we have a number of partners coming on board and seeing how we can be able to leverage on each other's strengths to be able to give the loans to the target market that we have. So we'll do more blended finance by way of getting price subsidy like what we had with Aqua for All in the last project that we did. And also we would have portfolio guarantees. Currently, I think we have like 3 partners, actually, that is Africa Guarantee Fund, FMO, and World Bank. That is DFC, the arm of World Bank. So all of those give us portfolio guarantees, which help in the de-risking of the facilities. Apart from that, in our experience in WASH, giving the WASH loans, we noticed that the challenges in capacity building to financials at the staff level. We've been able to train our staff, because this is not per se a sector that we would go and learn in most of the financial institutions, learning institutions that would attend. So we've had to train our staff a lot in identifying opportunities of WASH and the value chain for WASH. And basically from that particular aspect, we've been able to gain quite some milestones, and we've been able to attract quite some business coming our way. I think we'll be able to share with you some of the numbers for the last project in subsequent slides. So apart from building capacity internally, we also build capacity on the water utilities. Some of our customers range across from micro customers, households, individuals, SMEs, and even corporates, and especially water utilities. Because like we'll see down the line, the challenge that we have in Kenya in terms of access to water is a big challenge, which definitely we have around 29% accessing clean, safe drinking water, and 29% having access to sanitation facilities. So that addresses the gap that we have in terms of the WASH space, in terms of the opportunities that lie therein, that we can be able to capitalize and see how best we can be able to help the communities and leverage on the same as we continue with business. So capacity building in some of the utilities, especially the public utilities, were a challenge. And through partnerships with various partners, we've been able to leverage and see how we can be able to increase on the capacity for the utilities. Apart from that, we also have impact projects that attract community goodwill, which has worked for us in a very big way. We WASH, as we've been giving these WASH loans, they have endeared us to the community, in the sense that you'd find not so many financials would play in this particular space. It was more of a responsibility of the government in terms of provision of water, but more of the private sector as they get into this. definitely now it creates an opportunity, and those projects have an impact where you go to communities that they could not access water before. So just like it was mentioned by Malis, we've done OBA projects with the likes of Water Sector Trust Fund, that is in conjunction with World Bank, where they have supported a number of projects that we were able to do on an ABA kind of an arrangement. Next slide. So how CDN Bank runs a successful WASH program. So definitely what we've done to run a successful program, we've developed specific WASH products that have very, very unique features that would now be attractive to different customers who would get in touch with in the market, especially during this COVID-19 opportunity, the challenge that was there, because water was one of the key requirements to be able to alleviate the impact of COVID-19. So we developed products that were able to meet this particular need. And we did this in collaboration with our partners. We had different partners, just like National Bank has mentioned. We had different partners playing different roles, both local and international. We had liquidity providers, we had TA providers. We also had portfolio guarantee providers and technology providers. So the likes of if we were to mention just a few, for technology, as TA, we had the likes of Aqua for All. Then for liquidity, we've had the likes of Water Equity, World Bank, Water Sector Trust Fund supporting us in that particular regard. Then for guarantees, like I had mentioned earlier, we had the likes of FMO, who have given us a line of credit where we are able to guarantee up to 70% of our facility being taken. We have DFC guarantee, part of USAID, where we are able to do up to 50% of guarantees to the portfolios that we hold. And in addition to that, we also have AGF, which is also able to cover up to 50%. Now, the unique thing is some of these guarantees, they also have an affiliation to supporting women and youth, where you find if a portfolio guarantee is securing a facility by women, it might go even up to 70%. The likes of now AGF and also the FMO guarantee that we have. Next slide. So the target market that we had in this particular regard, we had the groups and micro enterprises, because in Kenya, when you are doing financing, we have an option of the people who have challenges with collaterals. We use the group guarantee mechanism to see how best we can be able to leverage on the group to be able to give finances, just to ensure that the facilities are paid back. We also have micro enterprises who we are targeting to be able to give these particular finances. Now, most of these groups and micro enterprises would be made up mainly of youth and also women in this particular regard, because they are in the community, they are part of the community that would have a challenge in accessing funds. So the first target market we had was for groups and micro enterprises. Apart from that, we also had targeted the small and medium enterprises, and we were able to give them quite some facilities in this particular regard. And the facilities that we gave to them were more working capital that were WASH related, in terms of provision of equipment that would be used, for example, in WASH activities, the water tanks, and also some who would be involved in the aspect of provision of water, where they would want to extend piping. For example, it might be a small and medium enterprise, which is a community-based organization, or a small and medium-sized enterprise that is specializing with WASH. So we would give them capacity to be able to even have more stock in terms of WASH facilities, or even provide more equipment for WASH. Apart from that, we also had the water service providers and the CBOs. We had quite a number that came on board in this particular regard, because we noticed in our communities, there are quite a number of people who have come together because of unique challenges in terms of access to water, just like I mentioned in the percentages before. So based on this, based on the fact that there is that particular need in terms of the water, we were able to bring on board quite a number of CBOs, community-based organizations, and definitely also the portfolio guarantees played a role, because you'd find most of them are non-profit, so they are working purely for the benefit of the community. This also worked very well with us in terms of our the structure that we have as a bank, in terms of supporting the community, because this would have a very big impact, especially when you're giving loans to this particular target market. So why
John
that
Patrick,
target market? Yes?
sorry, can I ask you to move a little bit to the end of the presentation?
Yes.
I think we are through your time. Thank you.
Okay. I'll try and rush. Why the target market? It is because of the growing population and unreliable water supply. Next slide. So this is the numbers that I was talking about, what we were able to do in the last program, what we had with Aquaforward in regards to SDG 6. Water resource management, we were able to do up to 16% of our portfolio. Clean drinking water, 30% of our portfolio, and sanitation and hygiene, 52%. We reached about 2.5 million in that particular program with a facility portfolio of excess of $7 million and reached in excess of 600 SMEs and 6 water service providers. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, so the balance between commercial impact and goals for financial institutions. So we were looking at this as investments in economically viable projects that are profitable to the bank. That's why the bank was going into it. And also this because tied up with our ESG policy. That's why we were very comfortable in playing this particular space. Then the banks was also leveraging on its network to be able to reach the market. Just like it has been mentioned, the 43 branches that we have. Then through provision of affordable portfolio guarantees, we were able now to even take more risk in this particular regard and give more loans to the market. Next slide. So challenges in wash financing, some of the challenges we noticed were governance issues in the community, water projects especially, efficiency in terms of water loss and in terms of non-revenue water. Those were some of the challenges with the burst pipes and the likes. Then revenue-based lending, cash flow ring-fencing was a challenge in some of the utilities or some of the community-based organizations. So these were some of the challenges that we are still working to see how we ring-fence to make sure that we do not have any leakage of funds. Digitization was also a challenge in terms of you'd find that most of the organizations would not have proper records. So trying to digitize them to have proper records and putting smart metering and the likes and billing and debt management were also a challenge which we are working to overcome. Then the structuring of finance requirements and collateral arrangements were also some of the challenges that we had that during our lending process. So the structured finance through blended finance, we were able to overcome that. Next slide. So key learnings, we learned that blended finance can be successfully used for lending, and that's why we are keen to get more partners to come on board so that we can be able to continue the same program. We also discovered that wash enterprises are viable because our portfolio at risk in this particular regard is very low compared to other portfolios in the bank. Then lending to water service providers has greater financial impact, but also socioeconomic impact to the communities that we serve, because this is endearing us a lot to the market, and you find even us getting more business on this particular regard. Then the need to strengthen the capacity of water utilities. We noticed that there's a need to even get partners who can help us in making them stronger so that we can be able to even lend them more, because the needs are very, very many for the utilities. Every utility comes to you with a myriad of needs that they want support. Then by accessing the impact loans, we are using a monitoring tool, which was giving insights, and we were looking at how we can also scale up in regions with greater potential, because our monitoring and evaluation tool showed us that there's a lot of potential in this particular regard. So having more partners and leveraging on the challenges that we had, leveraging on solution to the challenges we had, we can be able to even get more business coming on board. Then definitely the guarantees depend for us to be able to give more money based on what we would have given before without the portfolio guarantees. Next slide. So what you are looking for as a CDN bank, we want to scale up to at the tune of $20 million for the next 5 years in our wash facility. Also, we are looking at social impact aligned to our ESG policies and reach about 5,000 MSMEs, these are micro and small enterprises, and disburse at least 10,000 loans to new borrowers. Then transition to projects that have direct impact to climate change. This is very passionate for us as a bank, and we are keen to see how best we can be able to do this. So CDN Bank also wants to grow our portfolio of liquidity providers, guarantee providers, technology providers, and capacity building and technical assistance partners, because the opportunities we are seeing in the market is quite big, and if we leverage on that, we can do quite a lot. I think this should be the last slide, if not, next slide. Yes, so thank you very much for listening, and look forward to further engagement. Thank you, Malis.
Thank you very much, John Patrick. Please check the chat box. There's a question to City and Bank directly, so you can answer that. So next presentation is from Water Equity. They've been mentioned twice now by both banks, so we're looking forward to hearing from Water Equity. Hassan Andalib is a portfolio manager at Water Equity. He oversees the expansion and monitoring of Water Equity's investment portfolio. This includes identifying investment opportunities, building global pipelines, and conducting due diligence and tracking investment risk levels and social impact. Water Equity, in existence since 2017 as a spin-off from water.org, is the first asset manager exclusively focusing on water and sanitation. Hassan, we're curious to listen to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Marlies. Hopefully everyone can hear me. As Marlies mentioned, my name is Hassan Andalib. I'm the portfolio manager here at Water Equity. We are an impact asset management firm headquartered in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm based in Washington, DC, and I've had the good opportunity of working on both these transactions at Citian Bank and National Bank of Kenya. Hopefully through this session, I can add a bit more color from the investor perspective on these transactions. So next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So as Marlies quickly mentioned, Water Equity, we are a spin-off of water.org. Many of you may be aware of water.org. It's a nonprofit based here in US, and they've been in existence for over 30 years. They provide grants and technical assistance, mainly to microfinance institutions, but also commercial banks, to develop and launch WASH products. They have worked with, I think, around 150 or more partners globally. And we initially started as the investment management division within water.org back in 2014. We launched our first fund in 2015, a $11 million fund based, focused primarily for India. And then subsequently, we closed two other funds, a $50 million fund in 2019, and then a $153 million fund in basically last year. So far, we have raised more than $200 million. We have deployed most of that capital. We have made 60 plus investments, and we have impacted people with increased access to water and sanitation in 16 countries. And going forward, we will be launching more investment vehicles to have water and sanitation impact. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just like a quick overview of how we work. As I mentioned, we raise funds here in the US from a variety of institutional investors and DFIs, high net worth individuals, private foundations, and we package them into debt funds. And then we provide loans, either senior loans or subordinated loans to financial institutions to finance their the growth of their water and sanitation loan portfolios. So now the question first on the what is our product offering? So we offer loans of up to $12 million in local or currency or USD, senior or subordinated. Interest rate is market competitive. We provide loans to a variety of financial institutions. Here we have two examples of commercial banks, National Bank of Kenya and Citian Bank, but we also provide loans to microfinance institutions, microfinance banks, credit cooperatives, housing finance companies, other forms of NBFI. Basically, any financial institution that has a loan product which is ultimately creating access to water and sanitation, we finance those institutions. In the case of NBK and CDN Bank, this is through their SME portfolio. Basically, they're lending to MSMEs or water service providers. But again, when we lend to MFIs, it's the impact is more at a retail level. So it could be a client taking a $500 loan to build a water toilet or get a water connection or finance a water tank or water filter. And we go again the other spectrum of the value chain, as evidenced by NBK and CDN Bank, where it's more institutional lending. And again, last slide and last point I mentioned, it's a wide variety of institutions that we finance. Just next slide, please. Here's a quick point on water equities journey. I already mentioned it. We've been existent since 2014. We've launched three funds so far, over $200 million in capital. Our first commercial bank investment was to CDN Bank at the end of 2021 for $5 million. And then earlier this year in July, we approved a $10 million loan to National Bank of Kenya. So these are our only two commercial bank investments so far. But again, as I mentioned, going forward, we will launch more investment vehicles. We are going to scale up the commercial banking segment of our business, hopefully substantially. And as we look to increase people's access to water and sanitation through loans to financial institutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, could you click on the animation? Yeah, so this gives overview of our investment process. What do we look for in an investment? So our investment process takes about, on average, at least 6 months from start to finish. Initially, we start with a desk screening of the prospect. Here, we look at the basic eligibility criteria, the basic financial matrix with our credit policy. We look at the required loan sizes, the loan terms. We look at the credit risk profile. We make an assessment of the environmental, social, and governance criteria. We look at the impact that is generated, and we make a term sheet offer to the financial institution. After the term sheet is successfully negotiated, we move into an on-site due diligence. Here we look at a variety of aspects. Firstly, the operational and financial performance of the financial institution, the management and governance, and the capital structure. Basically, who are their equity investors? What is their liquidity position? The strategy and competitive position. Where does this financial institution position itself in the market? Where does it stand in the commercial banking sector? What is the regulatory landscape? Who are the competitors to this space? What is the pricing policy? We look at all these factors. And again, as I mentioned, as part of the due diligence, we have to look at the portfolio quality, the underlying portfolio quality of the institutions. This includes both the overall, the NPL or the PAR ratios, but also at the product level. So these WASH portfolios, are they performing? Is the repayment adequate? Is there enough de-risking mechanism in place? For example, as CDN and NBK mentioned, that they have first loss guarantees with other development partners. So we look at all that, and we prepare a comprehensive investment memo, which is presented to our investment committee for final approval. Yeah, so as part of that, obviously, the loan structuring happens concurrently as part of the term sheet negotiation. We structured the loan to best suit the needs of the financial institution. So we do loans in both local currency and USD. We offer both fixed or floating interest rate, and the repayment structure could be amortizing or bullet based on the needs of the financial institution. And again, we do loans that are both secured or unsecured.
Hassan, can I ask you to don't forget the last slide?
Yeah, yes.
Just 1 minute, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned, approval is given. Once the IC gives approval, we quickly move into loan documentation and disbursement. Just could you move to the next point? After investment, we have like a strict monitoring. So each investor reports to us on a quarterly basis. So they report to us on the WASH loan disbursement and the impact generated, a number of people that got access to water and sanitation, what type of loans did they disperse, the economic profile of these candidates. We all monitor all that. And the last is, again, evaluation is done through our impact and ISG director, and we report all of these to our investors on a quarterly basis, and also on an annual basis through our annual report, which is released again every year. Next slide. I think we already mentioned. I mentioned all of these. The impact assessment is done during due diligence, and also post investment. We collect data and report that to our investors, and also on an annual basis. I can answer that later if there are any questions. Okay, last key takeaways. So yeah, from water equities perspective, WASH we definitely feel is a viable asset class. Microfinance has historically had a repayment rate of 99%. In the case of commercial banks, it's different. It varies by industry, but obviously we've seen that their credit underwriting standards are much more rigorous than microfinance banks. So these commercial banks are much well placed to make an assessment of the risk that is prevalent in lending to the WASH sector. And again, these commercial banks are lending to mostly institutions, MSMEs and water service providers, as opposed to retail individual household clients. So that definitely gives us more comfort. Lastly, secondly, we've seen since the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been renewed demand for WASH loan products all across the world. So commercial banks, MFIs, they are keen to launch WASH products because clients have become more aware of the need for water sanitation and hygiene. As CDN, as evidenced by the work of CDN and NBK, a lot of the WASH impact they do is through their microfinance and MSME banking channels, so they can reach clients in peri-urban or rural location where the access to water and sanitation is the lowest. The work that both of these banks are doing with water area utilities is very admirable, because sub-Saharan Africa, the utility sector is critically underfunded, and getting loans through these commercial banks, it will help them to increase operational efficiency and improve non-revenue, reduce or non-revenue water. Again, the work that Eco for All is doing is very important for adoption by new financial institutions for new WASH products. Secondly, what we see is in order to bring in more of the larger Pan-African commercial banks, there needs to be syndicated financing for water and sanitation. We are working on a couple of deals. Basically, we want to bring in other impact investors into this space so that we can package a larger WASH facility, maybe a $50 million WASH facility, maybe $100 million WASH facility that will attract the larger commercial banks into WASH lending space. And lastly, we need more support from the multilaterals and DFIs. As CDN Bank mentioned, they have a first loss guarantee in place, and same with the NBK. So if more of these development banks are offering first loss guarantee for the WASH portfolios, then investors like us will be more incentivized to come into this sector and start lending more. So thanks, that's it from my side.
Thank you, Hassan. And we'll go over to the last speaker today before we can take a few questions that came in the chat box. Interestingly, Hassan, you mentioned that these banks, they have the potential to reach out to those areas where others can't reach. And the interesting thing is that I'm introducing to you right now the final speaker of today, Frances Sinha. Graduating from Oxford University and the London School of Economics some time back, she focused her career in microfinance, inclusive finance and livelihoods. She is co-founder of MCRIL, and that's why she's joining us today, a development consultancy which provides training, evaluations, research, and specialized ratings in countries of Asia and Africa. Frances has been closely associated with global initiatives in impact reporting and client protection. And she was involved in evaluating the WASH finance portfolio at CDN Bank, and she is willing to share some of the high-level insights with us. Frances, over to you, please.
Fine, thank you very much, Marlies. I will try and be short. As you say, MCRIL was asked to assess the impact of the WASH portfolio, as well as the utility of the monitoring system put in place at CDN Bank. So based on this assessment, as well as MCRIL's wider experience of social reporting by financial service providers, I will talk briefly about the question of why impact monitoring is relevant for financial institutions, how to do it, and what are the lessons. So in brief, a summary. Next slide, please. Impact monitoring is new for a bank, but as previous speakers have mentioned, it is highly relevant in the context of the global concerns around water, which are reflected in other sessions in this conference. The investors and lenders with a clear purpose are looking for the opportunity to track the results in terms of, for example, are WASH borrowers able to grow their business? What elements of WASH or the 6 Sustainable Development Goal are businesses serving? And how many people in terms of end users are supported by these businesses to access clean drinking water or to access improved sanitation in different areas? Banks can use impact monitoring data as inputs for their fund pipeline development and operational adjustment, the sort of areas they're reaching, the sort of businesses they're reaching, and which aspects of WASH they want to support. It's a resource to leverage further WASH investment, as we've seen water equity coming in and investing in City and Bank. And of course, it does link into ESG reporting in a very specific, concrete way. Next slide, please. So how to do it? And I've divided this into 2 levels. One is at the business level in terms of the business who is the client of the WASH loan from the bank. Information can be collected at the business level by the bank staff. In City and Bank's case, they're called relationship officers. And this can be done as part of the loan appraisal process. And there's an opportunity to confirm during visits for the loan use check. What we've seen at City and Bank is that there need to be clear questions with clear definitions and not too many. And there are the examples, the key examples that we have in the box, questions for impact monitoring at the business level. And you can see that those cover some of the issues that have already come up in other discussions. This has been part of the training of the bank staff and has contributed to routine quarterly reporting on these indicators alongside financial reporting. So we did speak to ROs as part of our assessment, and at the beginning it was difficult for them, but they now say they see it as a straightforward exercise and they understand what's involved and were not complaining. Next slide, please. The second level is in terms of the end users, by whom I mean the individuals actually served by the business. For this, we recommend that the external research agency, in this case, MCRL came in as the external research agency, can conduct a sample survey of end users who will include, for example, members of community association, households and end users, and as well as intermediaries such as vendors or landlords. Again, think of the simple key questions. We have developed these as a result of the exercise, and the examples there are in the box. And to draw on a previous section around asking the client, certainly we need to include user satisfaction, reasons for it being okay and not okay, and then their own perceptions of what were their water issues before or after, and what are the sanitation and hygiene issues before or after access to the service. And we see this type of information enabling better understanding and confirmation of the different aspects of WASH that a loan facility is able to contribute to. In particular, for example, improved versus basic drinking water and hygienic versus basic sanitation. Next slide, please. Some of the lessons then, quickly. Firstly, this does need to be introduced from the start of an investment. It is not an afterthought to be added in later, which does add to the work burden. We believe it's very important to allocate clear responsibility at a middle senior management level, someone with the right skills, and perhaps even more important, sufficient time. And this type of reporting can be linked to ESG, to responsible finance, and to a sense of water as a key area of concern for a bank and for an investor. Bank staff can be trained to include the business level indicators, and these should include the clear guidelines around, for example, the different SDG 6 indicators. Simple definitions, but not too simple given the variation of businesses and loans being used in different ways. And include an indicator for links to those technical partners who provide support for affordable quality for efficient wash. This has not been done so far, but I understand Sidian Bank is now planning to do this as part of their water equity funding, and we would fully support the idea of integrating the business level indicators into the banking MIS, so it's part of regular routine reporting. Develop a dashboard for automatic take-up of data and automatic reporting. It's not a separate manual exercise. And then for change in the business level indicators and the end user indicators, and feedback, an external research agency can be brought in on a periodic basis. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Francis. I think it shows how important it is to actually understand the impact that you're having with these kind of partnerships, and whether it and how it can best contribute to SDG 6, and how will we know that? How can banks actually understand better what the impact related to SDG 6 is? Thank you very much for all these presentations. I've seen a couple of questions coming in the chat, and I'd like to take some time to pick a few. And I think there's a question that came in as well from Louis Boerstin about the biggest obstacles to scaling actually commercial finance. And I think this is a question that I'd like to forward to our panelists of NBK and Sidian Bank. Of course, there's many challenges maybe that should be tackled. If you look at the current portfolios and the challenges that are there, the scale is not sufficient. I think we would all agree. But could you indicate which of those challenges are most relevant to you to scale finance to the sector, and what could be realistically done to address these challenges? Could I invite NBK and Sidian? Yes, please. Frederick, could you go first in responding to this question very briefly, and then we go to John Patrick. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Marlies. Yeah, and I think I'd want to say one of the biggest challenges is experiential success. For example, when I look at some of the utility companies we are working with, the public ones, it is important that we get to showcase the technology, a successful disbursement, implementation of the project, and thereafter the change management and adoption of the new methods of tracking efficiencies through technology, and reconciliation of transactions, bankings, and then finally paying off of the facility. Now, the end-to-end experience, we believe, is one of the catalysts that will bring up scaling. So if we are able to implement at this level of where a number of utilities are starting to really adopt technologies, like, for example, implement 10,000 smart meters, new connections. If we successfully do that, we will drive further scaling conversations with larger projects. So one of the obstacles is that we're not going the whole hog of walking the whole journey with these actors, involving the leadership of the water companies at all levels, executive, operational, tactical, and customer serving levels. So we believe one of the catalysts is to showcase more successes of pilots end-to-end and drive those into scaling. The other is also to start developing more conversations around public-private partnerships as models to go into scaling, where a lot of the financing modeling then goes into, say, build, operate, and transfer solutions for some of these water utilities. So we need to engage and advocate these utilities because that's where the bulk of the populace are served through the water companies. So walking the journey with them more around the pilots we do, around the current facilities we lend them, and showing them the successes will drive scaling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Is there something you would like to add, John Patrick? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, I just want to see some of the challenges that we've seen is one of them is the non-revenue water. The aspect of non-revenue water becomes a challenge, but if the utilities, based on how they are classified, define some have really countered this challenge very well, and it makes it easier to repay the loans. Then we'd also talk about record keeping, especially with the utilities or even the SMEs, some of them who are selling water in water kiosks. Some of them will find it's cash business. So we are trying to push the model of using what you call the M-Pesa tills, which is an automated way of collecting money. It makes it much easier and accountable, and we are able now to even do better collections. Then I think we've also got a number of requests on big tickets, which the portfolio guarantees are not able to come in and secure. So basically, if we are to get even portfolio guarantees which are able to secure bigger tickets, then those ones would make it even easier for us to even take up more of these bigger projects that are coming through. I think those are the ones I would call to mind based on the short time that I've been given.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Hassan, maybe could you also reflect on this question on challenges and how can we, what are the things that we could solve to go to scale? What would be your priorities?
Thanks, Marlies. Yeah, so I think the couple of things. One is for adoption to take place, there has to be like the designing and creation of wash products. So I think that is crucial. So like both these institutions that we're talking about here, Syrian Bank and NBK, they have like a full-fledged program in place, wash program in place. That means the credit underwriting process of wash loans, loan products in place, first loss guarantees. So there need to be like a creation of a full ecosystem where it's not just they're trying to lend ad hoc basis to water and sanitation sector deals, but creating an entire team. So I think that is one thing that we've noticed here. Both NBK and Syrian, they have dedicated wash teams. Wash relationship bankers, they have a dedicated product, they have a dedicated program, operational manual. So I think the whole thing that needs to be created for them to scale up the products. And there, I mean, people like Eco4All, Water.org, I think can play a crucial role in terms of adoption of new wash products. So that is one aspect. Secondly, is I think we have not seen much action from the regional development banks. If like IFC or like an AFDB, they don't do large ticket loans dedicated to wash. They do loans for SME sector, but like if there is a push from them to do like maybe like a large ticket size wash facility, that would incentivize the larger commercial banks to get into the space. When we're talking about like a large commercial bank, let's say like a $5 to $10 billion in assets, that is a market that water equity, being like a small investment manager, we cannot play. What max loan size that we can offer is, as I mentioned, $12 million so far. So that $5, $10, $15 million does not attract the larger commercial banks. So that market, if the DFIs can come in, then that would incentivize a lot of the larger commercial banks. For example, I was giving the example of KCB, which is the largest commercial bank in Kenya, and the parent bank of NBK. So they could be incentivized with like a bigger wash facility by the larger DFIs. And lastly, I was mentioning during the presentation is like, even if the DFIs don't provide direct funding, one way they can support this sector is through first loss guarantee de-risking mechanisms. DFC is a partner of ours, and they've already done that some of the work. Like they work with Syrian Bank There's African Guarantee Fund who's working with the NBK, I believe. So if other DFIs, multilaterals in this space then can come in and provide large ticket de-risking mechanism, let's say 5, 10, 15, $20 million, that would bring on that would bring in new investors. I'm talking about not just water equity, then other impact investment managers who are not WASH focused, they can see this as a viable investment class, and they can come in into this space. So I think those are some of the thoughts I had.
Thanks, Hassan. Yeah, I think that's reinforcing what John Patrick indeed mentioned as well. Maybe another question that came in through the chat, and I think is an interesting one to Citibank and family and NBK. I think this one should first go then to John Patrick. Can you indicate how you create a clear picture on the market potential actually, or the market sizing for WASH finance, and how do you build a pipeline?
Thank you for that question. I think the way we structure and come up with our pipeline is through our branch network, where based on the fact that we have people on the ground who we've already trained on how to market the WASH facilities, they look at the needs that are there, then they reach out to the clients there so that we can be able to bring them on board. We also have quite a number coming through referrals based on facilities that we've been able to finance. In which case, based on the fact that, for example, even with community-based organization, when they get to know there's a community that was financed to get a certain solution for WASH, then we have others working to us. Then the other thing is that we are also well known in the market in terms of WASH, based on the fact that we started doing a lot of projects a long time ago. So in this particular regard, we also have customers who walk in terms of coming to get business from us. I think in terms of scaling the market, in terms of putting a picture to the market that is there in Kenya, like the percentages I said at the beginning, 59% of the population is the ones that have access to clean water. Then 29% are the ones who have access to good sanitation. So that in itself tells you the opportunity that lies therein in terms of us being able to reach those numbers and get higher numbers in that particular regard. So the opportunity is there, the market is there. There is quite some business and some work to be done from this end.
Thank you. Maybe a very short additional comment from Fred before I have to conclude this session, unfortunately, because of time. Just 1 minute, Fred.
Yes, thank you, Marlies. Yeah, our approach is quite similar to CDN. Our branch network, bring up leads, but we also have some strategic partnerships with whom we can co-create viability projects, and we therefore have a pipeline through strategic partnerships. Thirdly, we also have a very strong relationship with at least half of the county governments in Kenya. So of the 47, we have strong conversations with at least half. And therefore, we're able then to have insights into the water needs for the county, ultimately, backboned by the water utility companies in those counties. So the branch network, strategic partners, and working with the counties. We also have a new arm coming up. We are doing a lot of engagements and work with the national government, and therefore we are seeing some leads of the WASH sector coming up from national government agency engagements. So those are the engagements we have at those levels as we develop our pipeline, and therefore we are able then to focus on the ones on a best effort cases which we can convert into facilities ultimately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Well, it leaves very little time to come up with some conclusive remarks, but I'll still give it a try. We have 1 minute. I'm afraid we couldn't tackle all of your questions, but thank you very much for joining this session. I think what we've heard is that mobilizing commercial finance for WASH through local banks is viable. I think a good question is how can we scale it, and what are the key challenges that we can take together there. I think what came out as well is that they heavily rely on the right partnerships to be successful. And I think a lot of suggestions have been done on what kind of partnerships are needed. Lots of technical assistance is necessary besides liquidity and guarantees. And I think a very important one is that the impact monitoring and reporting done by financial institutions is extremely relevant. And I think not only relevant to report back, but also to showcase what's being done and that can mobilize more finance, because there is lots of investors looking for high impact investments here. And I think what I've also heard is that it's one of the best performing portfolios in Citibank. So I hope this resonates as well with the investors. So I would like to conclude right now. Thank you very much for joining. We'll be uploading the presentations in the CB website, so you can have a look at them later on by clicking on the session again. The session has ended, unfortunately. Please reach out to each other, reach out to us in case of any questions. We'd be happy to connect you. I wish you a very good day or evening if that's the case. Thank you so much.
Thank you.